An MLB insider has revealed the truth on the situation with the New York Yankees and their free agency and trade targets, as we have multiple updates to go over today regarding the New York Yankees and their plans, because as we know, Brian Cashman has a saying about one specific position, that position being the pitching, where he said you can never have enough pitching. Now, multiple reports have indicated that the New York Yankees will be focused on signing relief pitchers in free agency. However, they will still have interest in starting pitching. It doesn't mean they're not going to touch starting pitching. Though on the surface level, what we see is an absolutely stacked pitching staff already. The Yankees do have a golden opportunity to take that to the next level and also create more trade chips in the process. Guys, we're going to go over all of that and much more regarding the New York Yankees. But before we do that, if you're part of that 69% that is not subscribed to Yankees Digest, make sure to go ahead and subscribe so you do not miss a single New York Yankees update. If you want to show everyone you know Yankees baseball, this is the place to be. Tell your friends, tell all of them. But that's not the point. The point is you guys want to hear about baseball, and we're going to talk about it because the Yankees right now, as I said earlier, we know they're targeting relief pitchers over starting pitching, but that does not mean starting pitching is not at all a concern for this team due to multiple injuries to guys like Gerrit Cole and Carlos Rodon, who will both be on the injured list to start the season, and Clark Schmidt likely being out the entire season. Brian Cashman will very likely take a gander at the market on multiple different pitchers. Now, we've heard a whole lot about Sandy Alcantara and the New York Yankees for ever now, which is obviously huge. Sandy's phenomenal. He showed that he could bounce back, which was absolutely huge in regards to trade value, and also how realistic a trade is and when that would happen. Now, with Alcantara bouncing back, and also with Edward Cabrera being asked about, as well as the Marlins do have two high-end arms, one of them being a guy who was the Cy Young just 3 seasons ago, and is still young enough and has an upcoming free agency where he's going to try to pitch to get a huge contract. There's a whole lot to think about with these two guys. Now, Mark Feinsand did talk about that and was asked about the situation with those pitchers, and he said the asking price for Sandy Alcantara and Edward Cabrera was high in terms of prospects. Even while Alcantara wasn't pitching well, the price hasn't gone down, so I don't think the Yankees or any other team will be able to acquire him without giving up a top prospect. That, of course, is assuming that Alcantara is traded at all, which is no sure thing. I'll explain why I'm laughing in a second. Based on conversations with sources, the Marlins could hold both Alcantara and Cabrera this winter and reassess where they are come July. Now, when I was making this video, I had no idea I put Ryan McMahon in there. I did another video involving Ryan McMahon. That one's out on the channel. Make sure to go check that video out. But also, I clearly got that mixed up. But also, I like what Feinsand's saying here for at least what it means to the Yankees. The Yankees are always going to be perennially connected to Alcantara. We know the Yankees have interest in Sandy as well. Now, Sandy finished the year with 8 games that he was phenomenal and looked like the Cy Young again. The man had a 2.68 ERA and a whip of .86. He was absolutely excellent. We saw that. We saw him go absolutely crazy. He did everything really, really well and showed that he absolutely is still that guy. He had to come off an injury and fight to get himself back to normal, and he eventually built up his confidence and built up his arm and literally everything about his game and came back swinging. Alcantara looks very good right now, and the Marlins, I kind of think that they have 2 routes to go. One, you could capitalize on his value right now and just say to yourselves, which is completely fair. I mean, even Feinsand said that the value is still very high despite the struggles. Look, Alcantara, the Marlins can say, because he's not leaving after this year, he's got 2 years left on his deal, the Marlins can say, you know what? We see him as the Cy Young still. We see him as a Cy Young level pitcher. If you want him, that's fine. We'll trade him to you, but we expect a king's ransom, like what would have happened a couple of years ago if we traded him after his Cy Young year. We want a very similar price. Will it be the same? Not necessarily. We get it. Team control is a little bit less. And also, he did have a few bumps in the road here, but we want top prospects. We're not taking some bargain deal for Alcantara. He is the guy who puts more butts in seats than anyone else on the Marlins. He makes us money. We don't feel the need to trade him, but we will if the right deal comes across. That becomes the hurdle for Brian Cashman. How much is he willing to give up? Is he willing to give up one of Jason Dominguez or Spencer Jones, imagining the Yankees sign Cody Bellinger, or if they lose him, sign Kyle Tucker and have an abundance of outfielders? Is he willing to do that for Alcantara, a guy who still finished the year with an ERA above 5? On top of that, who else do they want to add in? Is he really going to add in number 2 prospect Carlos LaGrange? Is he going to do that? Is he going to add Dax Kilby or Ben Hess, one of the younger prospects who still have a while to go before they get to the MLB, but they really see highly as top 10 prospects already? And then we look at Edward Cabrera, who, yeah, his value would be less and also is a phenomenal pitcher. Throws from the right side, had a 3.53 ERA with 150 strikeouts this year. He's a swing and miss guy who has really blossomed into a nice pitcher, and he is someone who's going to have a lot of trade interest. And if I'm being honest, I think it's more likely that Cabrera gets traded before Sandy. Now, here's the thing. If they're keeping Alcantara, they believe that they can at least start to win eventually soon, which would indicate they would keep Cabrera as well as the number 2 arm on that team while continuing to build up the young players that they have now and try to continue to make signings in order to make as good a team as possible and try to get back to the playoffs, because believe it or not, it wasn't that long ago the Marlins were a playoff team very briefly. So we consider that. And then again, we have to consider how much are the Yankees really willing to give up for him, specifically Alcantara, because I don't see them really trading for Cabrera. It's just an interesting tidbit in there. Are they going to be willing to trade a top 5 prospect? They'll likely have to, or basically supplement that by trading Jason Dominguez. Are they going to be cool with trading one of Carlos LaGrange or Elmer Rodriguez Cruz? I mean, ERC is getting very close to being ready to play in the MLB. Obviously, George Lombard Jr. is their number 1 prospect. We know there's no way they would trade him for Sandy Alcantara or especially Edward Cabrera. We know there's very little room that the Yankees would trade Lombard at all, and it would likely cost, probably, if we're being honest, Paul Skeens. I don't know if they would for Tarek Skubal because they understand what happens the last time they traded a bunch of top-notch players for a guy with 1 year left. He left after that year, so it became very clear there. So we look at that and we start to understand things. How much are they going to be willing to trade? Will they trade one top prospect for Alcantara? Yeah, probably, and they'd probably throw Will Warren as well in that deal to sort of help everything work out. At the same time, it is difficult to sort of navigate for sure, and it's something that the Yankees do need to look into as time goes on. But at the same time, if they're willing to wait, if they don't add another arm, a starting arm in free agency, they're either using Elmer Rodriguez Cruz or right now they're using Alan Winans as their other pitcher. That is something that we have to think about with this Yankees team. Look at this depth chart right now, because what we're going to see, I mean, Rodon is out, Gerrit Cole's out, so we see Max Fried, who is going to be their day 1 starter, and then Cam Schlittler will be there, Luis Heel will likely be there, Will Warren, and then Alan Winans is 5th. Winans has not proven that he could play at the MLB level at all. His ERA was in the 8s this last season. He is not someone who you really want on your starting lineup. So when you consider that, are the Yankees really going to go that route, or are they going to look in a different direction? What makes sense to me is that the Yankees do look in a different direction and make some sort of stopgap signing. Look, at the end of the day, you can always move on from Will Warren. You could trade him. You could trade Luis Heel. You could try to say, you know what, never mind, we want to go all in right now, and it's worth trading a young pitcher not named Cam Schlittler. That does make sense. There's an argument there that I honestly am sort of for doing. For instance, you got a lot of pitchers coming in. Sign Michael King to a 3-year, $75 million deal. Take Will Warren, who's more valuable than Heel, and ship him off somewhere. Get some sort of value for him. Get a good player in return for a position of need. And then, like, for instance, shortstop, third base. And then, I mean, he's not going to net the best shortstop or third baseman in the league, but he'll net something if you throw a little something else in there as well. But you do that, you could move Luis Heel to the bullpen and kind of have him in a swingman role like Ryan Yarbrough. You could see if that works better. If Luis Heel is in shorter bursts in pitching games, that could make a difference for him, especially right now while the Yankees do have this real top tier pitching between Cole, Rodon, Fried, and Schlittler. They need one more starter, and they have a few different guys. Not all of them are healthy, and obviously not all the guys I listed there are healthy. So it does make this a little bit difficult. Now, one of the free agents that they could go out there and sign is not yet in the MLB, but he's going to be very soon in Tatsuya Imai. Now, Imai is someone who's been linked to the Yankees a bunch. He's talked about how he wants to beat the Dodgers rather than join the Dodgers, and that would be more satisfying, that he frankly doesn't care if he's on a team with other players from Japan or not. That doesn't really affect him. That is what he has said. And that has had a lot of teams looking, including teams on the East Coast, teams like the New York Yankees. And this is a guy that works. I mean, as Feinsand mentioned, the fact that Imai seems unlikely to go to the Dodgers opens up the Yankees' chances, though the Giants could be the biggest threat to New York or any other team interested in Imai. The biggest question with the Giants is whether they're willing to spend 6 figures on a starter, because that seems like what it's going to take to sign him. The Yankees signed Masahiro Tanaka a little more than a decade ago and made a splash with Hideki Matsui. So there is precedent for New York taking a big shot at a Japanese star. Now, Tanaka also has often been super positive about his time with the Yankees and has talked to a lot of Japanese players saying they are a top-class organization. If they call Tanaka about the Yankees, we saw this with Roki Sasaki talk to him a little bit, and then obviously Yamamoto talked as well with Tanaka, who has been very much, this is a good organization. They will treat you right. You don't have to worry about being super far away from home. You don't have to worry about the fact that there might be a language barrier. The Yankees are a top-notch, buttoned-up organization. You're going to be fine. Imai will likely hear that if you were to talk to Tanaka and ask him, because Tanaka happily advocates for the Yankees because he loves the Yankees. So with all that in mind, I do think the Yankees are going to go for Imai, and I do think they have a very good chance of landing Imai as well. I do see that as a real opportunity. The man spent a good amount of time in Japan and pitched very, very, very well. He was unbelievable. The last season that he has had over a 3 ERA is 2021. The last 4 seasons, he's been below 2.50. He's been phenomenal, going 2.41, 2.3, 2.34, and then a 1.92 this season in the 24 games that he appeared in. He was absolutely phenomenal. He looked really good, and he was getting strikeouts. He's got a lot of pitches to work with, and I think Imai is a super perfect type of guy for the Yankees to go out and sign so they could supplement their pitching a little bit more. If you have to run a 6-man rotation because Cole and Rodon are both coming off of elbow surgery, so be it. I have no problem doing that, considering the team that's won back-to-back World Series has done that. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. This was a longer video than usual. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. Go Yankees.